You're listening to Sensitive Changemakers. This podcast is created for highly sensitive leaders and is designed to support you to embrace your strengths and gifts so you can feel more confident in your own mind and body and live a life with intention, purpose, and more importantly, joy. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP who has a BA Honours degree in education, is a fully trained and qualified professional coach and NLP practitioner, and has over 17 years of teaching and over 3 years of coaching experience supporting highly sensitive people. I believe that you can do anything you want to in this life, but that sometimes the path forward becomes muddy with self-doubt and fear of failure. It's my mission to help sensitive thought leaders peel away the self-doubt and stories holding them back, for them to see their own beauty and strength so they can increase self-confidence and self-trust through thought and embodiment work and see their path clearly and move forward confidently, living their life with intention and purpose. I would love for you to come and join us. Welcome to day 3 of Release Anxiety. This one is, I think, such a vital part of the puzzle. I know I've said that about every single piece, but the reason that I'm really highlighting this one is because it often gets overlooked in the journey of reducing and saying goodbye to anxiety completely. So there's a couple of caveats that I want to start with, and just to ensure that you really do understand the importance of what we've been going over for the last 3 days, and that is, you are not broken, you don't need to be fixed. I think that's such an important message, because I know when I was going through my worst time, I really did feel like I was broken and that there was something inherently wrong with me that was never going to be fixed and I was always going to be the same way. And I think it's such an important message to get out there to say that that's not the case. You have everything you need inside you, and sometimes I talk about layers, and in this case we're talking about kind of layers of fears and experiences and habits that have kind of covered over your true strengths and who you really are underneath. So today isn't about being somebody different. It's not about pretending or like imagining that you're somebody else. It's about who you are underneath all of those kind of fears and worries and doubts and just those experiences you've had up to date which have not been the most helpful, and seeing yourself in a different light. So the first thing we're going to be talking about today is a couple of things that I found really useful, not only on my own journey but supporting other people as well. And it really is this identity piece. I'm going to take you through some ideas, take what works for you, trial some of them out, see how they feel for you. This is all about finding what works for you, and that is such an important part of this. And it's why I haven't done follow this 3 steps, etc., because your 3 steps might be different to somebody else's 3 steps. So there's an overarching idea here. We do have to look at emotions in the body, we do have to look at our thought patterns, and the identity piece that we're going to be looking at today is such a crucial part that often gets missed. But what we do and how we work within those ideas and themes is very individual to you as a person. So, okay, I've already talked about how you've got everything inside you. And again, if you want the PDF workbook for this, just let me know and I'm quite happy to email it over to you. Because again, like always, there's some nice ideas in here. There's some different things that you can follow through, etc. at your own pace. So again, if you do want the workbook, please do ask. So just a real quick overview on what we've been doing so far. So day 1 was really reopening that communication between the mind and the body, really starting to understand that the body and the brain are trying their best to help you. They don't always get it right because they're not using logic, they're using patterns and habits that you've created over time. But it is important to kind of learn how to sit with our emotions, sit with the body and the body's feelings, so we don't get triggered by that in itself, which can be, especially for those people who have health anxiety, which was what I had, that can be a very real thing where you just get triggered just by your body being your body. And so we spoke about the importance of how you can actually process anxiety through your emotions, through your body. Tuesday, we talked about the importance of language and cognitive distortions, how we talk to ourselves, how we can start to shift our thought patterns from less helpful thoughts to more helpful thought patterns, and how that can really help you. And today we're going to look about identity. This is how you see yourself. And I've got in the PDF here, and I think I'm going to actually read it out because I think it's just really helpful to hear. When you believe something to be true, you see the world that way. And I think I want you to have that in the back of your mind throughout this particular class. So I'm going to say that again. When you believe something to be true, you see the world that way. Okay, so if you see yourself as a worrier, as an anxious person, that identity will shape how you see everything, how you see yourself in the world, how you see the world, etc. So it changes everything. Now, in his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear, and I quite like his book because obviously it talks about minute habits and how important they can be to change whatever you want to change in life. And so he talks about the importance of identity when you are creating change. He gives the example of two people trying to quit smoking. And he talks about how they both get offered a cigarette. Person A says, oh no, I'm trying to quit. And person B says, no, I'm not a smoker. Now you can see the identity piece coming into play here. The first person still sees themselves as a smoker, but I'm really, really trying to quit. The second person doesn't see themselves as a smoker anymore. They see themselves as a non-smoker. And you can understand and probably bet which one of those people is more likely to completely quit smoking, because the identity piece is that important and that vital when we're trying to make change. Now, I know we're talking about anxiety, but actually the same principles apply here. If we are constantly seeing ourselves as an anxious person, and I used to do this all the time, you know, I'm anxious, I'm a worrier, I'm always going to be that way, it's never going to change. So not only have I got an identity around always being anxious and always being a worrier, but also I've got those cognitive distortions of all or nothing. I'm always going to be this way, it's never going to change. And those two things combined are very, very tough to break if you don't have the tools to do so. So the last day 2, we talked about the tools of language and how we can shift our language. Today, I want to concentrate on the identity piece and how we can start to shift that into something different. Okay, I hope that makes sense so far. So I think one of the first things I really want you to do here is, what would it look like if you didn't see yourself as an anxious person anymore? Now, part of this is the language. It's about, if you remember, I talked about shifting away from using I am to I have. So rather than I am an anxious person, I have anxiety. It just removes that identity piece slightly. It shifts the way we see ourselves just slightly. And for a lot of people, that's a great place to start. The second part of it is actually starting to visualize what your life would be like, or who you would be, if that anxiety identity was no longer there. Now, this can be tough for a lot of people if you've had anxiety for a long period of time. When I first started doing this, I just played around with the idea. I saw it as an opportunity to play with almost like dreams, but with a really clear goal as to why I was doing it. It wasn't just like aimless dreaming. It was for a reason of just for argument's sake, just curious really, what would I feel like if I didn't identify as an anxious person anymore? If I identified as a calm person? If I identified as a slow and moving slowly was something I craved for so long because I was so used to doing everything quickly. And that kind of fed into the anxiety as well. So one of my shifts that I made is, I'm going to slow everything down. What would it feel like to just be a slower person? So I didn't move as quickly everywhere. And it's not perfect. There are still areas, especially when I get stressed or there's something happening and I need to do something, I do find myself moving very quickly and I have to take a deep breath, let's slow down. And I physically slow myself down. So that's kind of my avenue into it, because it was a very physical change, if that makes sense. I physically slowed down my actions of what I was doing, and that enabled me to see me as a calmer person, a more relaxed person, a person who can take her time, a person who doesn't have to worry about X, Y, and Z being done on time, because it's all going to be good. It's all going to happen as it happens, and just practicing that skill. So one of the first ways that I started this, and I think if it feels good for you, it'd be great for you to try it as well, is just to sit Now, you can do this as a visualization or a journaling activity. I've given you room in the booklet to write this down. But literally just sitting and having some time to play and to think. What 3 adjectives would you use to describe that person that no longer had anxiety? Now, I've just given you a couple of mine. Was calm, relaxed, slow. Those were really important to me. What would your 3 be? And then you can take that a little bit further. So how would this person move? How would they start to move through their day? Now, I know that sounds bizarre, but for a lot of us, we see ourselves as quite tight, especially with anxiety and things like that. We see, you know, our shoulders go up, jaw becomes very tight. So how would somebody who wasn't identified as an anxious person, how would they move? Would their shoulders be more relaxed? Would they kind of slow down as they were moving from room to room or from activity to activity during the day? How would they move through their day? How would they eat and drink, or what would they eat and drink? Would they be eating and drinking the same things that you are now, or would there be a slight shift? I know that I feel so much better when I have a little bit of balance. So if I go to, and this is very individual to me, I think you may be very different, but if I found over the years that if I go too extreme on either side of the scale for eating, so if I eat too much crap, or if I don't allow myself anything, any treats, any nice things whatsoever, I feel stress on either end of those in different ways, but very stressed either side. For me to find a balance and to 90% of the time eat really well, and then 10% really enjoy those little bits that I, like chocolate, for example, then that feels like my true self. And this is when other things come into play. This is when we get a bit deeper into people pleasing, or previous habits, like people that you hang around with that encourage you to behave in a certain way, that actually if it was just you might not be acting that way. I hope that kind of makes sense. So we're kind of digging into society, social groups, behaviours that we have in those groups, and actually just being aware of how we change our behaviours around different people. And actually, if we were being true to ourselves into this nice, calm, relaxed, slow, or whatever your 3 adjectives are for your individual identity without the anxiety, what would that look like if you weren't always feeling persuaded by others, or you weren't always feeling like you had to go with the flow with what other people were doing? What would that look like for you? So I hope that makes sense. How would you talk? Now, one of my big things, again, you won't be surprised, was being able to talk slower, because I do have a habit of talking very quickly, not only when I get excited, but just because at the very start I definitely thought, well, nobody's going to want to listen to me, so I'll just get out what I want to say really, really quickly, and then it'll be over, and I won't be annoying anybody. So again, just taking my time, everything for me was about slowing down. So again, talking slowly, really thinking about what I wanted to say. Okay, so I'm going to say these things again so you can hopefully take some time to think about what it would look like for you. So again, either write it down or visualize yourself. You're still you, but you no longer identify as an anxious person. Okay, so you can even say to yourself, I'm not an anxious person, I am, and then think about 3 adjectives that you would describe yourself as if the anxiety wasn't there. Sometimes this is something you really, really crave to do or to be in your life, but for whatever reason, normally because of the anxiety, it hasn't fully played out yet. So I really want you to think about those things, and then go into a little bit more detail. How would this person stand, eat, talk, move through their day, and really kind of get detailed. Hope that helps. Now, I will be, in the next few months, I am creating, so this is part of a course called Release and Rise, and I will be creating a visualization that goes alongside what we've just been talking about, identity. So if there is anybody here who wants to know more information about that, I'm going to talk about it at the end of this particular session, but if you want to reach out and ask any questions, please do so. Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to do, just to play around with the idea of not identifying as an anxious person. How would you identify? What adjectives, what 3 top adjectives would you want to use to describe yourself. And if you're like, well, I don't know who I am underneath my anxiety, what would you want to be? And that normally is a good indication of what's underneath the anxiety anyway. It's a kind of a deep embedded feeling that's already there, that you haven't either given it time or the energy to kind of explore because other things have got in the way, because anxiety controls so much of what you're doing. So if you are struggling with that about 3 adjectives, just think, how would I like to be seen? What is important for me? And go along those, and you'll find some really kind of golden nuggets there. The next thing I really want to talk about is the happiness equation. So again, this comes from a book and lots of research. This is a really good book if you are a bit of a science geek and are a nerd and want to learn more about the research and the studies behind this. This is a great book. So it's Sean Aker, The Happiness Advantage. And he literally talks about lots of different things about happiness, but the research that they found behind it. He is a big advocate for positive psychology, which I do have a qualification in, and it really does help when I'm working with clients, when we're getting to the stage where we've kind of broken down the anxiety. And what I mean by that is really understanding it and what the triggers are, and we're starting to create new patterns and new habits. This work, so the positive psychology work, really fits in very nicely with this, in order for people to not only survive but start to thrive. Okay, I know that's a bit of a woo-woo word at the moment, but it's true. Okay, so in his book, he talks about how people have got the happiness equation the wrong way round. So what a lot of us expect or would like is we are waiting, or we're working towards something external in order to feel happiness. So for us, let's use anxiety here. When I'm not anxious anymore, I will feel happy. Or it might be, when I get this promotion, I will feel successful. It's that idea of waiting for something external to happen in order for us to feel happiness, joy, success, etc. And what he says is the research actually shows it's the other way around, that we have to feel it before we start to see it. So if we start to look at things already in our life that we can feel happiness, joy, success around, then we start to see the shifts and the changes in the external world. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So I've put here, and this is following from the PDF files, again, shout out if you want it. I want you to really use this to help shift how you see yourself moving forward. So again, we're talking about not just surviving here, but we're really talking about thriving. If you have to be it or feel it first, how can you start to see yourself as anxiety-free before you actually are? So what would that look like? So this is really building on what we were just talking about just removing the identity of being anxious, and we're taking this a step further so you can see how it crosses over with what we've already been talking about. There are some ideas that Sean Aker gives in his book, and I've just picked out the ones that I think are the most useful for us in this particular topic. So the first one, look for the glimmers in each day. Now we talked a little bit about glimmers before. Glimmers are these small, seemingly inconsequential parts of our day that we may often overlook, but they are actually the key to shifting our perspective from one of doom and gloom to potential. Now, if you remember, we were talking about, in day 2, we were talking about the black dot, and when we've got a white piece of paper, and it's that negativity bias, we've got the white piece of paper and the black dot, and the black dot represents all the bad things that have gone wrong that day, and the white paper reflects everything that's gone well or gone okay, and how we focus on that black dot. And this is what we're trying to reverse here. So we're trying to focus on the little bits of the white paper instead. So the little bits of glimmers of your day that seemingly are very, very small, but actually show us that things are going okay, or that they're actually going well. And so that's the first thing. Again, you can do this in lots of ways. You can sit with it and reflect on it at the end of an evening and just think, okay, what were my glimmers for today? And the smaller the better. These do not need to be huge, amazing things that happen during your day. I think some of the examples that I gave in day 2 was like, for me, I love watching trees sway in the wind. I find it incredibly relaxing and just, I just find it nice. I don't know whether that's the highly sensitive person in me or just a bit of a nerd, but I do love seeing the trees sway. That for me is a glimmer. It's a really, really tiny one. It might be if it's been a gloomy day and you see the sun popping through the clouds, that might be a really small glimmer. If somebody says thank you, that might be a really small glimmer. So the smaller the better when you're looking at glimmers. And again, you can write these down, you can journal them, you can just kind of almost reflect on them in the end of the day, or as you get better and better, you can almost take a mental photo of it as you're going through your day. It's almost like take a photo, a mental photo of that to remind yourself that things are going okay. So that is one way we can feel it before we see it. The next one is meditate. Now, I've spoken a little bit about this in day one, where we're talking about emotions and feelings. There's been so many studies, and again, do read the book, The Happiness Advantage, if you want to see the research behind this. It shows that meditation can reduce stress and improve feelings of calm and contentment. So again, that's that feeling it, being it, before we actually are completely anxiety free. So really learning to sit, so it crosses over with what we were saying in day one, sitting with our feelings and emotions and just allowing ourselves to be. And if you want to, one of the things I used to love to do at the start of mine, because meditation was one of my biggest tools for really overcoming anxiety, was visualization. So actually just, again, playing around, and everything I did when I finally made the shift away from anxiety was with curiosity, because looking at it with judgment and a should not attitude just always ended up imploding my face. So looking at things with curiosity and going, okay, let me just play with this idea of, something really nice happening. How would it feel if I was really relaxed and calm and serene? And what would that look like? Where would I be? And just spending a couple of minutes in that place. And you can find, if this is something you're interested in, you can find loads and loads of guided meditations on YouTube and things like that. And just look at it with curiosity and see if you can play around with what one really enables you to see yourself differently. The next one is random acts of kindness. So again, studies show that giving to others actually reduces stress and improves mental health. Again, this can be so many clients that I speak to, and I'll hold my hand up here as well. This was very much me. When we're anxious, one of the things that we do is we pull back from society, from social groups, from people, because that's kind of our response. It's almost like when we're talking about fight, flight or freeze, it's like a fleeing away, it's a running away kind of response. It's just leave me alone, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to be around anybody, because you've got so much to process. And it is absolutely exhausting. So one of the ways that you can actually support yourself here, again, alongside day one and day two, is just trying some random acts of kindness and seeing how that feels. Seeing, again, it's a bit of play here, seeing how that feels, what one really, lights you up. A couple of months ago, I was taking this is a bit of a personal story, I was taking my son to go and watch my daughter at Young Voices, which is like a huge national choir where everybody goes to like one of the big stadiums. This one was in Birmingham. And they've been all learning the same songs, and they go there and you can sit in the crowd and you can hear, it's like the biggest choir ever, and it is so loud. But it was amazing. Anyway, I was taking my son and we were just popping off to just get a quick drink and something quick to eat before we went away. And a man just came up to me and said, "Here." And I was like, "What?" And he handed me a gift card and he said, "I promised myself I do one random act of kindness every month, and this is mine. Here's £10 gift card." And he just gave me a £10 gift card. That was amazing for me, and I can imagine, he kind of ran off. I think it takes a lot, doesn't it, to go up to a stranger, but I'm hoping that he felt really good about that. I definitely was like, wow, this is amazing. There are amazing people out in the world. It really did restore that faith in humanity. So random acts of kindness can be a great way of not only reducing stress and improving mental health, but also allowing you to see the good in the world and the good in people, and allowing you to shift how you see yourself and how you see yourself in the world, which again covers over that identity piece. The other bit is, or the next one should I say, look at ways of including little bits of happiness into your physical space, so you see it everywhere. So for example, I have a wall just here to my right that has lots of different things that really helped me to feel calm, to feel relaxed, to feel at ease, to slow down. So all of those adjectives that I was describing about my identity earlier, those are the things that I have in my space, in this space, to help me. So I've got one here that says, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. That's just like a little postcard. I then have my calendar, and my calendar is nature pictures. So at the moment it's got 2 deck chairs on a really isolated beach with the sea, and the sun is just poking through the clouds. Now I love that, is basically, because normally I don't face this way, I face that way, and that is what I see every day when I'm working in here, and it enables me to feel relaxed just by those tiny little things. So is there anything that you can include in your physical space that enables you to see yourself differently, to feel differently in your physical space? The next one I'm going to put the link in the comments, and if you're listening to this on podcast, I'll put it in the show notes. This is very much based in positive psychology. This is looking at your strengths. So there are so many different strengths, and a lot of us don't know what our strengths are. We may have an idea of things that we're good at, but we don't necessarily know what our strengths are. So there's actually a quiz that you can do, and I'll put the link, as I said, below or in the show notes, and you can just go and answer it. It takes probably about good, depending on how much you think about it, 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. And you answer lots of questions, and then it gives you what your strengths are. And what I would do with that is, once you've got probably your top 3 strengths, just have a look at how much you incorporate those into your days. How could you include more of it? Is there anything you could do that would bring some of those strengths more into your everyday life? Because those are the things that mean a lot to you. They are things that you are naturally drawn to, that you feel, I would say, that you feel are important to you as well as things that you are good at. So just really spending a bit of time going away and having a look at that, and then thinking about how that really integrates into your day. Is there anywhere that you can bring some of those ideas further into your life? And then the last thing, which I think for me is very much at the end of my anxiety journey, if you like, when I felt very relaxed most of the time, and I'd done all of the work that we've been talking about previously. This was the last thing to kind of plop into place, if you like, which was trying something new. So I talked about, if you've caught the podcast earlier, I talked about this year when we went away to the Isle of Wight. I went on a kayak on the sea, which I've never done before. It's not necessarily in my comfort zone. I love the sea, but I'm not overly confident in water. And so going out on a kayak and enjoying that experience, we made sure we went out on a calm day. Obviously we had our life jackets on, things, so safety was kind of taken into consideration there. But it was such a wonderful experience, and such a calming experience to actually go quite far out and see and just not be able to hear any of the noise from the beach. It was very calming. And so that enabled me, again, it built that up evidence-wise in my brain, but also in a very physical, real way, that I was a different person now to what I was 6-7 years ago. And so the way that I see myself is different. I'm always been the same person, if that makes sense. I'm just not identifying as an anxious person anymore, and as a result it opens up different possibilities and different opportunities and a different way to see myself. Like I was talking about before, those layers that often cover up those golden nuggets of who we really are, once we start to peel those layers away, we go, oh my god, I can do this, I feel like I can do this, I feel so much more relaxed, or I feel so much more energized or free, etc. So I hope that makes sense. And I was talking to a friend the other day, again, so you can see the shift. My mum sent me a photo of a letter I wrote her in 2003, I think. At the time I was living in France, because I did a year away as part of my degree, and I lived in the south of France. And this letter, my mum just took a photo of it, and she went, I have just found this, me and your dad have just found this, and we cannot believe how much this is not you anymore. And it was literally a letter about how much I miss them, But it was I'm sorry I exist letter. I'm sorry that I'm so annoying. Obviously it wasn't specifically what I was saying, but that was the theme of the letter. I'm so sorry that I exist. I'm so sorry that I'm annoying. I'm so sorry that I can't think better. I'm so sorry. And it was just like this like apology letter, peppered with little things that I'd done over in France. And my mum said, but you're not that person anymore. And what she means by that is, that was the anxiety talking. That was the guilt that was talking. That was the shame that was talking about having this anxiety for so long. And when we started to peel those layers back, the person underneath is who I am now. She was always there, but she was just covered up with a lot of anxiety, shame and guilt. Hope that makes sense. So it is absolutely possible to shift how you see yourself, to feel better, just to experience life in a different way. I feel like I'm getting quite emotional there, but it is such an important shift. And the last one that I really just want to go over here, so hopefully this one's going to be a bit shorter today, is the power of yet. So as we're creating any new shifts and changes, you will come against times when you don't want to do it. You just don't want to keep up with it, or the new routines or the new activities where you find it difficult, or maybe you get a knockback and you think, oh, for goodness sake, this is never going to go away. And it happens. We all have those days. So what can you do? The first thing I think is really important here is just to kind of normalize it and to appreciate that this might be due to what we call the upper limiting problem. If you want to read the book by Gay Hendricks, he talks about it in his book, The Big Leap. And the idea is that, and I've spoken about this a little bit before, is that we only have so much capacity to feel good. And when we've got to that capacity of feeling good, our brain goes, no, we're going to revert back to old patterns because this is too new, too scary. I don't know how to, keep you safe when you're doing all these new things and thinking all these new thoughts. And so it tries to get us to revert back to patterns just to keep us safe. It is always there as a safety mechanism. And when we're creating change like this, that is the optimum time when these things are going to kick in, because we are trying new things. We are, doing new routines. So there is going to come a point when your brain goes, no, I've had enough. I just want to revert back to what we were doing before because it felt safer there. And remember, it is always about safety. I know I keep saying that, but safety is the reason that our brain wants to do most things. So if we can actually reassure ourselves, reassure that subconscious part of us that actually it is safe to start doing these new things, it is safe to continue, it is safe to have bad days and still be making progress. All of these things. And again, that anchor that we were talking about in day 1 and day 2 again, anchor is really important because again, it gives you that place to go to where you can kind of relax into something, feel safe, feel grounded, before you then start again and start taking those steps forwards and continue with your routine or your activities or your new way of thinking or whatever you're trying to implement. And so it's a really, really important tool to have, I feel. The other thing is that you can talk about the power of yet. So Carol Dweck in her book Mindset, and I know I'm talking about a lot of books today, but she talks about the importance of a growth mindset over a fixed mindset. And the idea is, in a nutshell, growth mindset is one where you are able to see that you can do, like everything's figure outable, like you can figure it out, you can work it out, it just will take some time or some energy or some new knowledge, but you'll get there. A fixed mindset is that always never. I'm always going to be this way, I'm never going to learn something new, I'm always going to think this way, etc. And so having that growth mindset when we're dealing with things like change, when we're trying to shift away from anxiety, when we're creating new habits, this can really support us. And if you are really struggling with this, the word yet can be super powerful. Really easy and simple to use, but really powerful. So if you're having a really rubbish day and you're thinking, God, I don't think I can do this anymore, you can just start to use the word yet. Like, I'm really struggling, I don't think I can do this. Maybe one of your thoughts. But you could actually shift that into, I'm not sure I can do this yet. I haven't figured out how to do this yet. And just start adding the word yet on, and you will see how just using that word will enable you to see things a little bit differently, and probably, hopefully, mean that you don't beat yourself up as much, that you can give yourself some compassion and say, right, okay, I'm doing the best that I can. I haven't figured it out yet, and that's okay. I know this is working, I can work on this. Because once we start to incorporate the word yet, our brain starts to shift from looking at problems to solutions. And so that will really help you if you're having one of those kind of lower days, shall I say, where things just don't feel like they're happening for you. Okay, I think that is all I want to cover today. The only other thing that I really want to reiterate from what I said yesterday was getting used to feeling good is such an important skill. I still feel quite uncomfortable around feeling good. Like when something feels good, like when's the other shoe gonna drop? It's part of how I was brought up. It's very much my dad. I love my dad to bits. He is, and I've always said, he is my hero. He's so very similar to me in so many different ways. But he is always like, oh, I don't look forward to things, because then you're never disappointed. Or if something's going good, when is something bad going to happen? And so that is very much what I was brought up on. So to start to actually feel into feeling good without a yeah but is really uncomfortable at times. And I can imagine that there's quite a lot of you out there that are very similar. And so again, a lot of what we've talked about today is playing in a nice, safe way, hopefully, but having a play around with how long can I sit and feel good? How long can I keep this feeling going? How long can I integrate all of these new ideas and new activities into my life? How long can I keep it going? And just have a bit of a play, a bit of curiosity. And the other thing that really helps you here that we did talk about yesterday is gratitude. Can we celebrate those really, really small wins every single day? Because that will help you to keep you going as well. And your brain and your body will see that it's okay and it feels safe to keep feeling good, to keep having a go at these routines that we've spoken about over the last 3 days, these different thought patterns that are going to be useful, etc. So I hope that's really helpful, so you can see how we've gone over the body, emotions, thought processes, and today we've looked at identity and shifting how we see ourselves for the future. So we're really looking at rising, which is why I'm going to be talking about the course in a minute, but we can also look about thriving rather than surviving. So as somebody who's done this work myself and help other people to do this, I believe in you. I know that you can do this. I know that you've got absolutely everything within you to make these shifts, to see yourself differently and to feel free. I know you can do this. And I'm going to talk about, this is a real journey. It's not a race. So over the 3 days, if you've had time to listen to them all, which is fantastic, well done, because that in itself is not easy. And there are bits that you still feel like, I didn't get that, go back and listen to it again. I will make sure that these are evergreen so you can listen to them at any time. I may well do this kind of release anxiety maybe a couple of times a year, so that if you've missed one, you can always come back and listen to one in the future. Take your time with it. Really do feel into it. Don't feel like it's a to-do list. Like, oh, Kate said that, I've done it. You know, it really is about sitting with it, taking your time with it, understanding it, feeling through what's good for you. Because as a highly sensitive person, I'm just going to bring this in there, a lot of us are tempted, I should say, to kind of people please and do things just because so-and-so said that, so I should do it. So I'm giving you full permission here to take your time, to go back over things, to redo things, to relook at things, to feel through what's good for you. Really do feel through what's good for you. And if you need support with that, please do shout out. So there is a prize over these 3 days for those people who have signed up to Release Anxiety. I'm going to give everybody until tomorrow because I'm still going to be sharing quite a bit of it through social media, so I might have a few last minute entries. So I will be telling you who the winner is. I'm going to do it on Monday, so that's Monday the 19th of August. I'll be announcing who the winner is of the prize. The prize is a one-to-one anxiety-free session with me, so really just supporting you in identifying your unique toolkit that's really going to support you in releasing anxiety, reducing anxiety and feeling free and starting to see yourself in the world differently. So if you are interested in doing that, all you need to do is sign up. So if you've signed up, you're already in. Congratulations. If you haven't signed up, I'll put the link in the show notes and in the comments on the Facebook Live so you can access it and join us. The next part that I really do want to discuss, and I'll be sharing this in separate posts as well, is that these 3 days are part of a bigger course called Release and Rise. So Release and Rise is 16 weeks of support. It is 8 units, and this is something, so I've created it, I've spent probably since just after Christmas, and I finished it last week. So it's taken me some time, and I've purposely taken my time with it, as we were saying before, not rushing through it, not trying to complete it just to get it done, but really making sure that it's the best that I can possibly make it. Now, this is a brand new course. I've never run this course before. So as a result, I am looking for some beta testers. So I'm going to tell you what is included. And then if you're interested, there's a sign up form. And again, I'll put that in the show notes and in the comments so you can actually join us. So there's some PDF workbooks, there's some videos, but there's also every other week there is a one-on-one session with me where you can ask any questions, where we can dig into something a little bit deeper, either based on what you've been reading during the course or something that is coming up that's quite important for you. So that's kind of how this is, a bit of a hybrid course. So there's some information and some calls, some sessions. When it goes live, as it's 16 weeks, which is quite a high chunk of time, it will be £960. Because I would like some beta testers just to kind of go through the course, give me some feedback, let me make any adjustments that I need to adjust to make sure it's absolutely spot on, I'm offering this for £240. So if you want 16 weeks of support from me for £240, please do get in touch. So to summarise, you'll learn even more about what makes you tick through those 8 specialised units that are proven to support you to permanently release anxiety. You'll get your videos and PDFs so you can work through the course at your own pace. They are evergreen, so you will have them forever. You will have the VIP option, which is the one-on-one sessions every other week to be used to support you in any questions you have or to work through something specific. And the start date will be the 23rd of September 2024. So if you're interested, please do let me know. And as someone, I know I've said something similar earlier, but just to really reiterate, as someone has rediscovered who I am underneath over 20 years of anxiety and panic disorder, I know the level of inner work it takes. I really do. I know how tough it can be to see yourself differently at the start, and I know it can be really tough to create new habits. It can feel really uncomfortable and a little bit scary, but I also know it's absolutely worth it. When you don't start responding to something with panic, and when you can feel at ease in new situations, when you can start to say yes to new opportunities, you really do start to see the beauty in each day. And it's a wonderful way to live your life, and you will really suddenly feel like you've got a second wind. So I really hope this for you. I wish you all the best. If you need anything from me, you know where I am. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.